Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in. We are jumping straight into the action. Not getting any intros from us, but it's myself, Mark of G, and Zepcast. But it looks like everybody's leaving, so I think we're going to get a quick reset so we can come to the casters and get us started early. There we go. This is what we're here for, right? It is myself, Mark of G, Zep, joining here once again. It's Nation Cups 2025. Zep, we've seen this group already in week 1. We're now getting to see them in week 3, where now it all matters for this one matchup that we have, and it's going to be Saudi Arabia versus Portugal, because we had a forfeit of Germany, which means Netherlands gets 6 points, and now Germany on 6 points, and the only other team that can qualify now naturally is going to be Saudi Arabia, but they need to beat Portugal today, Zep.
Yeah, so I mean, look, a massive game for Saudi Arabia here this evening, a mountain to climb playing against this side. But I mean, well, from what we've seen of Saudi Arabia already, I think they are a side who could surprise us, right? And as we take a quick look at the roster, we have V-Nuke, Twist, Ricky, Khalid, S8R, and Abukal. Again, please do correct me if I have pronounced that one wrong. But, you know, get a very strong roster. I think it's been quite a competitive group, this, it has to be said, you know, and I believe we did cover Saudi Arabia before, unless I'm completely mistaken. I believe I was on that cast with you, Mark. Yes. And I remember thinking that I was kind of surprised with how well that they played. You know, I think definitely a team that is the underdog in this scenario, a team that shouldn't be able to come through with the victory. But we've seen crazier things happen, and you see the Portugal side they have to go up against. That is also a stacked roster.
Yeah, Depressix, Geo, Cyclo, and then JC. These are going to be an interesting one. Portugal sitting very bottom of the group, though, unfortunately, not managed to find herself a win yet. So technically, Saudi Arabia probably should have the upper hand going into this one. They've got 3 points on the board already. So, like we says, if they have the opportunity to win this one against Portugal, they go through because they beat Netherlands. So therefore, the head-to-head summary makes it Saudi Arabia's chance to qualify into the next stages. But the maps we're going to be witnessing are going to be Summit, Hardpoint, followed up by a Tunisia Search and Destroy. And if we go the distance to that game 3, it will be a Raid Control, which we don't really seem to see very many controls. I had seen one last week, but there was like few and far between throughout the group stages, and I very much likely think it's going to be a 2-0 here as well, Zep, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is most likely going to be, right? And, you know, as you say, Portugal, they're not positioned great at the moment. I still think, though, you know, they are a very good roster in their own right. They're definitely one that could do the damage. But, you know, so are Saudi Arabia. Again, they're a team that I think are fighting from the position of pressure, and whether or not that pressure causes them to kind of crack a little bit, or is it kind of what makes them and what sends them through. Regardless, it's just a make or break situation for them. They have no choice but to pick up that win. Portugal kind of playing just to cause the upset from this point, and I'd be curious to see if they can. Like, are we going to see a situation where they take it to map 3? Are we going to see Saudi Arabia perhaps have a little bit of a lapse in concentration and drop off at certain points? It's only a matter of time, really.
Yeah, it definitely is just a matter of time. But Summit is a good old classic map, right? I do like Summit Hardpoint for these two teams. We've seen Portugal getting good performances, getting close, but most of the time it was in the Search and Destroy, right? We've seen them get quite close. They looked like they had opportunities to take the win, but unfortunately couldn't do so. So hopefully they can get started quite strong in our Summit. But it could be an interesting matchup for sure, because they are up backs against the wall, right? It doesn't really matter for them. This is like a bit of game time for them, a bit more practice really, because no matter if they get that win, they don't qualify either way, but at least they're here putting in their final game performance and trying to show why they could potentially be picked up from all these other COD mobile teams, because obviously the Nations Cup is just based off the countries, but there's so many teams out there that are still looking for that fifth member maybe to add to the roster, or even maybe get another roster set up and think we can take this Portuguese side to a new level if we see a good performance up against Saudi Arabia tonight. So it's all to play for, it's all practice, it's all also a wee bit more COD Mobile for them to kind of experience, especially if they're not as like used to the kind of competitive scene in comparison to their opposition.
Yeah, exactly. Being able to play from that situation of, you know, you aren't really playing towards the pressure. It's kind of the exact opposite of Saudi Arabia. You're playing from a position where you're simply just trying to prove yourself for the future. You are trying to get more of those reps in, and it's just going to be really interesting to see how they perform under that particular circumstance, right? Because almost the burden of responsibility has been lifted from you, right? Which means it gives you the opportunity to go in and really try and hone down something that you might be already good at, and doing it in a more relaxed environment environment, or at least as relaxed as it can be, or you bring different strategies to the fold. You realize that what you were doing throughout the season didn't work and it's too late for that change to really make a difference. But, try some different strategies. See if you can drip feed them in and see if you can, plant that seed for going forward in the future tournaments, whenever they may be, and creating a strategy that might work for you.
Exactly. Well, take yourself into the action. Portugal getting the early lead. Couple of kills, though, is going all the way to Saudi Arabia. So somehow Portugal still got 7 seconds, even though nobody was finding kills in that kill feed. But eventually it will be Saudi Arabia take full control of that hard point after a good bunch of kills kicking us off.
Yeah, very much back and forth between these two sides at the moment. Split between the time, heavily contested around the center of this map, as we are seeing Val go around for the kill, pick up one, instantly get traded back and forth on kill feed, left, right, and center. But it is Portugal now on the point, trying to push Saudi Arabia off. 11 to 13. I mean, this has gotten so mixy early on, but P1 always very intense to not be set up for that P2.
Yeah, exactly that. And you can see them starting to make the rotation, starting to think about, right, where are we going to be holding in the back zones? It's going to be Portugal holding beside the P3 side so that they can try and get the rotation from 2 to 3, but it's going to be Nuke that finds both of the players in the back there, and that's going to be a chance for Saudi Arabia to get onto that time early on here and start building a little bit of a lead, because all the players of Portugal are spawning to the other side of that main building.
Yeah, after a very back and forth start, Saudi Arabia have done a good job of angling themselves towards where they needed to be, picking up those kills. Portugal are kind of slipping through in ones, but then very quickly find themselves being taken off if they don't have any solid map control as of yet. They are racking up some important time here at the moment, but I think Saudi Arabia are just happy to play it patient and wait to knock them off together as a team to get back around onto the point. And you see that there, SK is picking up a couple of vital kills around the point to keep Saudi on it, to keep them in control. But credit where credit's due to Portugal. They're doing a good job of keeping it as mixy as they can.
Yeah, especially when you look at the kills deficits. It is definitely a bigger difference here. Sorry, I was going to say a fancy word, but it wasn't coming out of my mouth. But Saudi Arabia, they've got so much more kills on the board in comparison to Portugal. Portugal have still managed to keep the time close, so objectives being more important here on hardpoint than the kills ratios that can be seen already. But we head over towards P3. Portugal are set up in the back. They've got the full setup ready for this hardpoint, and they're finding the kills that are needed here as the Presix does find Khaled with a shotgun just outside, and this could be Portugal trying to take that lead back in their favour once again.
Yeah, it's a massive opportunity for Portugal here. They have spawns, they have control, but in an effort to keep the spawns, they have to drop very deep after dropping a few lives. And credit to them there, they've actually picked up a nice wave of kills. Are we going to see some damage done in the back? No. I thought Portugal were going to be in a little bit of trouble there. I thought maybe Saudi Arabia were going to be able to hold from the front and keep the pressure applied and turn that spawn into a spawn trap. Portugal fighting their way out, doing a good job of holding on to this point to have this game once again just within 5 points. Saudi Arabia having to go on the chase here, but now spawning in the back.
He's going absolutely nuts here with that shotgun. He's just found 4 in a row, and now he's throwing out the Hellstorm. Well, there we go. Going to range some death on even more, in Saudi Arabia are in a difficult position trying to find it a P3. Finally dealt with nuts, and Nuke will get in for that little bit of scrap time. So it's going to be a close game. It's almost going to be a tied game going in to P4. I feel that Portugal did a fantastic job there on P3.
Identified. Capture the objective.
Yeah, Portugal did a great job, and they've also rotated well. The hill and overall in terms of the flow of the map, the switching of the spawns based on the times. I mean, it's worked out quite well in their favor, but I think that's more so due to Saudi Arabia just playing a little bit more for the immediate, trying to slay out in the kills departments and win hills by force rather than directly play positioning on the map. And I think that's because, again, they're playing from a level of confidence, but as Portugal will continue to rotate and prove that they can hold on to these points once they successfully rotated, that's going to present quite an issue for Saudi Arabia, and they may not give themselves enough time to rectify it. But in saying that, they have done a good job of breaking in here. They do have the spawns locked down, but we also have seen when Saudi have had the point locked down, Portugal make it really difficult to get clean time on it. They're constantly presenting themselves as a danger as they once again get back on for a little bit of a contest, and we'll have one more challenge.
Yeah, one more final chance. Maybe that little bit of scrap time to keep that lead in their favour for Portugal, but it's trades back and forward, and Saudi Arabia got the close spot, so they're going to get that last bit of scrap time. As we head over towards P1 once again, where it was very much anybody's dance floor, and we're just fighting over it and see who can take control of the most and show off the best moves. But so far, it is definitely a very tight game. We are actually completely tied at 90-90 here going to P1.
it just shows what an entertaining game it is, neck and neck. But it has to be said, we're seeing a lot more Saudi Arabia picking up the 2s and 3s on that kill feed as opposed to Portugal, which is going to be a real difference maker getting later on into this game, as we see they're having a lot of control over this mid. They are slaying out, they're making sure to pick up the trades until now, as we start to see Portugal pick up a couple and try and get through onto that hill. Portugal have done a great job of staying in this map so far, again playing as sort of that underdog side, but you gotta keep this up and you can't let Val do what he just did to you.
Yeah, Val gets the Tempest, a few kills there, and then whips out the final kill with the weapon as soon as he has to run out of that Tempest. Equalizer coming up here from Tricky as well, going back to back with operators on that hill. Tricky does find 2, but does get shut down when there's his shotgun once again. He has been going fantastically well with that shotgun in hand if you're nuts, and that means that Portugal are still keeping this close and within 5 seconds here on P1 as we head towards P2, which this time it is Saudi Arabia who are there early on this time and set up for the response for P3 potentially, but you can already see a rope around coming from Portugal. It's going to be player number 4, the Pressix, trying to get the sneaky play from behind.
We've seen Saudi rotate well for this point last time around, but weren't able to do a lot with it. Again, they did have majority time, but Portugal did a good job of making it scrappy and then fell back pretty well onto P3. So that's where Saudi Arabia need to change their tune this time around. They need to keep this point contested. They need to try and hold time and be set up for that P3, but it's now Portugal who have complete control of P2 and are picking up waves of kills here as they look to try and push back out for those P3 spawns. Saudi Arabia a little bit split across the map here, as Portugal, I think for the first time in this game, have had a wave of really solid control and switching between the points and are actually successfully keeping Saudi Arabia off majority time.
Yeah, it's going on the kills as well. It was about 7 kills in a row that all went Portugal's way, and that's exactly what you need to get a good clean hold. They also have P3, which was their strongest hard point in the first set of rotations. They are a way to try and get that under control early on once again, and I'm afraid if they do as they did in that first set, it's going to be a difficult task for Saudi Arabia to try and get that break on in the early kills. Once again, Nuts is finding multiple kills. He's up to 27 so far. Equalizer's going to be pulled out here from Frosty, and the Sparrow coming out from Nuts as well, so they're going to be able to hold off the incoming push. That's a free piece instantly with that Sparrow in hand as well. That is absolutely chaos.
Yeah, they are excelling here, and Saudi Arabia picking up a couple of kills now to try and make life difficult, maybe force their way through the front, but life is starting to get a little dangerous here as they push on forward. If Portugal can get much more time off of this, Saudi Arabia will have no choice but to get a virtually clean hold on P4 to keep themselves in this one. But in saying that, Saudi Arabia have managed to take at least 10 seconds off that point, but if Portugal now get a clean hold, and actually looking at this is where the danger happens. You see the spawns over towards P4. I believe it's Nuke who has rotated successfully over there. There's going to be a huge battle in the back, of which Nuke wins out on. So Portugal, or Saudi Arabia, excuse me, are going to try and hold these spawns, but Portugal are flooding the back, and Saudi Arabia are just being late as a team to everything here. They're being very slow on these cross-map rotations.
Yeah, player 2 does get that spawn in the back, and thankfully it wins the gunfight, but player 1 does get spawned out completely, so they're going to be down a deficit of 4 to 5 here as we start to make their way to the hill. But if we can get a couple of good kills here, as Nuts does do so with that shotgun once again, finding a few, gets himself in, hardpoint in control of Portugal, but the spawns might well be flipped on the side of Saudi Arabia because they do have that back spawn, so that going to go off. That war machine has done its job and they can get back into that hill, but he's not finding as many kills as you think he would.
No, I didn't get the clean wipe that he would want, but ultimately managing to get his team on the point, so won't complain, and fighting to keep this game once again within 10 points. We went back to P1 the previous time around, tied 90 to 90. We are just 6 points in the difference here, 18 left to go on P4. This game has been the definition of neck and neck, and how much of that has been Portugal overperforming versus Saudi Arabia underperforming, that is something you can pick apart after the fact, but for the moment it is Portugal trying to keep themselves in the lead just about, but Saudi Arabia taking the lead once again, rotating back onto a P1 that which they have found quite a bit of success on the last few times around. So Portugal are going to recognize the danger they're in here.
Yeah, they get on the time early though, Portugal, so that's what they want to try and hold on to that time, try and take that lead back, because it was quite good for them so far, but as it starts to leak back in favor of Saudi Arabia, they are managing to hold off on P1 because Saudi Arabia struggling again. All 3 players are going to try and pounce on that one player inside the point, and finally will shut him down. That's where he's dead in the feed in favour of Saudi Arabia. They're going to get close to that 200-point mark, which means they are 50 points away from the win. But that's 3 big kills here for Portugal as they look to get their way back in on Heart P1.
I was about to say that Saudi Arabia seemed to favour themselves on the more mixy hills, but Portugal just cleaned up house there to get on that time and once again find themselves just about in the lead. 197 to now 200. Portugal decide to cross the 200-point threshold first, and they rotated well over towards P2 the last time around. So Saudi Arabia trying to make sure that doesn't happen again as they get themselves set up early. And you can see they currently have the P3 spawns as well. This is most likely going to come down to a P3. So Saudi Arabia recognizing the importance of the map control that they could try to establish now.
Exactly that, yeah, that's so close. 4 teams can win it on the next hard point as it stands here as well. So this is going to be a very interesting hard point on P2. But P3, if it goes there, Portugal have been phenomenal on it so far in 2 sets of rotations. So Saudi Arabia will want to try and get as much of this time here and put the pressure on towards Portugal, and they are doing just that. That is 3 dead in the feed. The war machine is out, it is working, it's magic, it is doing what it has to do in stopping anybody getting near that time. And that's pretty much what Portugal have been good at mostly, because the kills disparity is a massive difference in comparison to Saudi Arabia, but it doesn't really matter. The score is still relatively close, but Saudi Arabia can't win it here, and they're going to have to go P3.
P3 going to be make or break. Portugal though currently have the spawns for P3, but Saudi, actually they're not even going to get all the scrap time. There is going to be a contest because there was a little bit of a split spawn situation here, which will allow Portugal to push through, hold on to that scrap. But we're seeing a lot of Saudi Arabia have made their way towards the back, and that life at the back of the press is going to be huge to be able to pinch on to this P3, picking up 1 in the back, causing those spawns to flip. But they need to get pushed in now from the back. They have 1 more chance to get on.
To get the kill, they get 1 more kill, and that's it. They can get into that time. It's 10 seconds needed here for Saudi Arabia. And Nuke is going massive. Is he going to go and do 3? No, he doesn't. He gets the 2. His teammate will follow up with the next. It is 2 more seconds needed for Saudi Arabia, and they are on the time. They will take game number 1, and what a game it was as well. Oh my god, I can't believe it was kept so close for so long. No, it took to the first set rotations, and between P3 and P4 there, that was the difference maker, really. But P2 and P3, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, look, absolutely incredible game to watch from start to finish. And it was a really weird one because, you know, you pointed out Saudi Arabia clearly outslaying in the KD department, having a really strong game. As we take a look here, you do have a Tricky over on 51 and then a 53, 42, 40, 41. Everyone over the 40 mark, whereas you only have 2 players over the 40 mark over in Portugal and just about. But it was the rotational play from Portugal that was far more important. I think for the overall, Saudi Arabia were really enjoying when that game was getting mixy, when they could play towards those P1s, where they can contest in the tight spaces at the back of P4. That's where they found themselves excelling, because the slaying out was directly relating to time. But when it came to that, those cross map rotations, those transition periods, Portugal for the large part actually dominated on that front. Now, did they dominate in that front because of the positions that they were picking up, or because of how spliced their spawns always were, because of how erratic Saudi Arabia were moving? Again, that's one that could be up to interpretation. But I think Portugal definitely made the most out of the situation that they were given. It just didn't get them over the line.
Yeah, 100%. It was looking good for them. I was hoping and praying that Portugal would keep it close there between P2 and P3, because that's what they needed. Their P3 was strong for the first 2 sets of rotations. In the end, though, even with the Pressix holding off, I think there was just too close of time that needed for Saudi Arabia, so they could just keep full sending it, because they knew they were seconds away from that victory, even if Depressix tried to hold it off to get that back spawn for just a little bit longer than probably needed, when he could have picked up the kills earlier. But unfortunately, that's just how it goes, right? They were perfectly in rotation, they were there early, they were getting some great holes. Portugal, they're definitely improving as a team together, and very much were in that battle the whole way through, even if the kills disparity was a big difference. But you know what? Objective play is where it's at. If you get your rotations early, you get your setups right, you can hold and you can get a lot of time on these hard points. Doesn't matter how many kills you're getting, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, you know, it's a great point you make with the Pressix kind of sitting in the back where he did. Could he have pushed forward, gotten the kills earlier? But, you know, at the same time, maybe you're thinking if you're him and you're sitting in that position, you're kind of waiting to have that pinch collapse onto the point, having trapped Saudi Arabia in once they got onto the rotations. Could have Portugal maybe picked up a couple of more kills from the front to create sort of that successful pinch collapse, which also guarantees spawns. Maybe that was the play. It just ultimately didn't work out. But again, when a game goes that close, it ends up being that those just moment by moments that are the difference maker and ultimately working in the favor of Saudi Arabia. But definitely having their confidence perhaps shaken a little bit now going into a map number 2, a Tunisia S&D, Search and Destroy, wherein maybe they thought that we're maybe not going to have an easy time against Portugal, but, you know, feeling the pressure, feeling riled up, having that adrenaline and clearly outslaying, they thought that that might be enough to get them through. Portugal clearly have a tactical advantage, at least in how they've proven themselves to be able to play tactically up until this moment. So I've proven that they're going to be able to give Saudi Arabia a game. And you go into a map number 2, you go into a Search and Destroy where, you know, not being able to respawn, the pressure is there even more. Could we see Saudi Arabia start to have some shaky shots?
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely what we're going to have to start thinking about, because obviously their competition is on the line here going into the Tunisia Search and Destroy. A win obviously completes them in that playoff bracket and gives them the opportunity to finish. I don't know if it ties them second with Netherlands, but because they have got that win against Netherlands, they technically will be the team to go through. Therefore, following it behind Germany in that group, who are already qualified as things stand. It is going to be really pressure building towards that team, thinking, right, this is everything. Portugal don't have that pressure, right? They have all this just to play, just to try and put some pressure on Saudi Arabia, have a bit of fun, go out there, maybe change strategies up a little bit differently than what you're used to seeing in the previous games as well. Maybe teams have been watching the VODs back and watching how Portugal played, because Portugal has kept these Search and Destroys pretty close, and that's not the thing you want to be coming up against. A close S&D could mean it could go either way, and Saudi Arabia obviously want to try and win it in the 2-0 fashion as quickly as possible, not put them under pressure going into a control on raid, because once again, once you get momentum back, if you're Portugal, you never know, that respawn on control could go well in your favour as well, because kills weren't working out for you, but your tactical advantage might pull you through that control and somehow put Saudi Arabia out of the competition as well, alongside yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is just a case, you know, in Portugal's perspective, again, with that having no pressure, in a weird way, they're going into this game, I think, with just a point to prove. You know, they want to show that they can do it. And I think we've already seen from the performance in that map number 1 that they're a team that, you know, if you were to judge off that performance alone, they weren't a write-off for this season, right? They weren't a team that like necessarily completely deserve to be sitting down at the bottom based off their natural ability. You know, they've shown that as a squad, they have the ability to give these teams games, and potentially would have found better fortunes maybe in another group. Maybe they would have found themselves having an easier time against other players. But having a point to prove, showing that they're a side that's not to be messed with and not really to be looked down upon from finishing on the bottom, if they can prove here that they've taken Saudi Arabia's chance of moving through because they still locked in, even though there was nothing there left for them, it shows a great mentality, which is going to be of huge value to teams.
Yeah, exactly. They're a very strong S&D team for Portugal, so let's see what they can do as we kick us into the action. It's going to be Saudi Arabia, though, her first blooded here. S8 gets taken down by Bronx's scope, and Khaled gets shot down straight away as well. But it's a trade-for-trade battle as things go on, 3 versus 2, but it is favouring Portugal so far. Fantastic opportunity for Portugal to take that first win on the board and put that extra pressure on Saudi Arabia.
Bomb has been planted.
Yeah, getting the plant down early. They have complete control of the site. They are spread apart nicely, but in a way where they're going to be able to cover each other through the lanes. Saudi Arabia kind of have no real choice here but to make sure that they either push together or coordinate the timings immaculately to pick up these kills, because outnumbered, outgunned, and that clock running down ever too quickly for their liking is seeing Tricky trying to get in here and get some damage done. Going to be able to pick up 1, but it is now going to be a 1 versus 2, running out of time. Not the position you want to be in. It should be Portugal from here.
Wow, as soon as you said running out of time and you said it was tricky, I was going to start dancing there. It's time to get this tricky. Tricky. Sorry,
absolute
DMC,
tunes.
you know? I mean, I can't help it. It just came on my head. That's just the bad kind of jokes that we come out here as an old man. Unfortunately, I couldn't pull it off as good because, you know, I'm an old man, so the joke doesn't really suit as well as it could have done. But Portugal early round really is exactly what they want to go into this action, and I think saying this as well, like Nuke's going to pull off the scope back against Bronx here, so they're getting trade for trade in the scope department so far. That first blood. The bomb that will go down for Portugal, and Nuke's going to find another couple, and there we go. That's going to be it all down to Frosty to try and clutch up here. He does find Khaled, but he's in a 1 versus 3. Well, he's in a 1 versus none at this point in time. 3 versus none. And it will be a bit round back on the board here for Saudi Arabia to tie things back up.
Yeah, good round from Saudi Arabia. Again, there's sort of a rinse and repeat play going on, but Portugal, or Saudi Arabia, excuse me, managing to deal with it, picking up the picks after that bomb goes down, sort of picking them apart one by one. Just the perfect way to answer back. Portugal, very strong search and destroy team. You don't want them building up any more momentum, because that's really where Saudi would start to feel the pressure, doing a good job of answering back and picking up a first blood in this round. Yeah,
once again, another op trying to find that first blood, and Khaled with a shotgun goes out Bronx as well, so instantaneously you get feed in the feed. The Prestix at least finds Khaled here, but he's going to find a second as well. But Val will take out Psycho, means that the Prestix now has to find Ace in the round to win this one on the attack inside. Mostly a defensive favoured map for sure, but Portugal will be happy they've got 1 round on the board, but they would like to try and get more
ready for the next round.
Going into the second half potentially, but that's Saudi Arabia taking a 2-1 lead.
Another good round from Saudi Arabia, and again, Portugal, such a strong search and destroy side, but you're playing against a Saudi side with a lot to prove. And you know, we did talk about it going into this game, that could be make or break, and so far for Saudi it seems to be the making of them, as they are playing with a level of confidence and intensity, recognizing the importance of every shot they take. Whereas Portugal, if they start to lose a bit of momentum in the situation that they're in, it could be very, very hard to get it back.
Yeah, exactly that. We're looking for the push around towards A, but it's Khaled once again opening up that shotgun. Nuke with the sniper once again, but 2 for 2 trade back after 4. You got 3 versus 3. Make that 3 versus 2. The Prestix does find Khaled with a VMP, and now Val and S8 with that scope has to figure out what they're doing here from on out, or is this going to be a tied up match once again?
And Saudi very much deciding to play together here. Portugal rotating over towards B, but having Psycho watching that cross again. A lot of knowledge just to know where Saudi are set up, and Saudi are going to start rotating around the back. We're also seeing Psycho read that. He's gotten the timings down to perfection, so he is going to catch the rotation. Can he make it count though? No. It's absolutely gunned. Now with that bomb down, it's 2 versus 2.
Yeah, this is interesting now. You've got time if you're the attackers, but you've given away your position early there, SHR, but it's 1 for 1. Now you've got Val versus the Prestix. Who's going to win the gunfight? It's going to be Val, and he's got lots of time to play with.
Yeah, great round from Val, and a great round from Saudi Arabia as well. Going tit for tat, things always get risky, but to get a few rounds in a row like Saudi have done, even though they've been close rounds, it gives you a little bit more control, a little bit more breathing room here. They'll be delighted with that one, but still a long way to go against the Portugal side, who's cutting a lot of these rounds close as well. Saudi won't be able to afford to take their foot off the gas pedal.
No foot, all gas, no brakes for sure. Let's see what they're going to do from here on out. 3-1 up 2 round lead. Defense as expected, but that's a great nade from Nuts here as he takes out Nuke. One of the players that's popping off so far in the first 4 rounds. The next person you got to think about is Val, who's been doing a phenomenal job, obviously clutching up in that last one there as well. If you find him, there's a chance Portugal to get another round on the board. Tricky will find Bronx, tries to jump over and get out of the sight line, but unfortunately, it's not going to trick him too much.
4 versus 4. And Saudi giving themselves another great opportunity. The lives are being traded though, tit for tat. Now 3 versus 3. Huge kill from just Khaled to once again give them a numbers advantage. Portugal in trouble. They're a little bit split apart here. And now a 3 versus 1. This round has not gone their way at all, and Saudi are starting to tighten their grip around this series.
Yep, you'd be a little bit depressed if you're depressed, because you've been in multiple 1 versus 3, 1 versus 4s already, and there's only 5 rounds being played so far, so it's not the way you want to be. You want some of the support from your teammates, so hopefully going into this round you can try and bring another one back and at least take it 4-2 going into the second half.
Yeah, 4-2 would be massive. When you get to that 4 scoreline, the difference between a 5-1 and a 4-2 is really massive psychologically. So Portugal have to play this one right, but already dropping a life. It leaves them in massive trouble. But answering back well to now go 2 versus 4. This has actually been a terrific round from Portugal, who played the base against Saudi Arabia there, drew them in and picked them apart one by one. That's the stuff we need to see from Portugal.
Yeah, I like that play. That was fantastically done and worked. A good round on the board, and definitely looks a lot better on the score sheet now, going into halftime and swapping over. Now being on the favour side of that defense, Portugal have an opportunity. Hopefully, if they can pick a few more rounds up, there's a chance to go in front here. After a couple more rounds, at least get a tie game, you'll be happy with the way that things have turned around on its head.
They go into this round with a little bit of momentum on their side, picking up a first blood as well. This is exactly what Portugal would want. Saudi Arabia have angled their way towards A, but not really safe to get that bomb plant as of yet. Portugal are just waiting for their opportunity to strike, but they're playing very split from each other around this map, almost keeping Saudi Arabia fenced in, you know, recognizing where they're playing through and getting ready to collapse in when they need to. But a terrific bait and switch back and forth there to give themselves the numbers advantage once again. Saudi Arabia in a little bit of trouble, but managing to take a life as well, making it 3 versus 3. We're seeing the flank come through around the back from Nuts. Can he make it count?
Yeah, bombs down as well for Saudi Arabia, so it's time up against Portugal now. You've got to start thinking, right, we need to start making a play at some point. But look at player number 2, making a route around the back, does find Frosty, all of a sudden makes it a 3 versus 2 in favour of Saudi Arabia, but that is trickily getting shot down once again from Nuts, but it is traded out with another shotgun to their face. Saudi Arabia will take it 5-2, 2 rounds away, and the round goes their way. Portugal, they need to step up a little bit here in this defense. It should be more favourable, but throwing that one away from them, unfortunately, even with that first blood.
Throwing away 5-2. Saudi Arabia, they're on their way towards the finish line. Portugal running out of time to be able to pull this one back as that bomb angling its way very quickly towards B. Very congested as they're going to get a lot of control to try and get this bomb down. Portugal taking their time though, have managed to pick up one, but the life traded back. It's very intense between these two sides.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely an intense game of S&D as always. There's 2 kills on the way of Saudi Arabia though, and Portugal are left down to just 1. It's all Bronx. What can he do? He does 1. He's got 2 more to find though, and it's going to be another scope, and it's going to be S8. They've both got scopes in their hand. But who's going to have it? He's going to get whipped down, and there we go. Finished off. Nuke just getting wild with it. Execution. Just cancelled it, but you're not going to see it on screen. But there we go. What a way to end the round. 6-2 Portugal. Map point. Technically serious point here. So the chance to be playoff opportunities on the line here now for Saudi Arabia.
Massive chance for Saudi Arabia. They've done the hard work. Just 1 more round left to go, and they will be safe. Can Portugal put a stop to that once again, making sure to trade the lives? 4 versus 4 now. The challenge coming through. He is ripped to pieces though by Nuts. And they're getting dropped 1 by 1 here as Portugal quite happy with where they're sitting at the moment.
Yep, that is 2 good kills. The Nuke dances back to the press 6 and Nuts gets caught out, all down to Frosty. But this time, a 1v2, not a 1v3. He finds the first. Second surely does come, but he's going to be caught timing. As always, you dip away just as the moment he's going to turn that corner you were looking at. That's just how it goes on Call of Duty. It doesn't matter if it's mobile or if it's standard Call of Duty. The timing is always the one that gets you.
Well, timing work in his favor here to steal this round. It absolutely will. Portugal handing themselves just a sliver of a lifeline. But it's a very long mountain to climb back up here.
Yeah, it is an uphill battle for sure. Every single round has to be clean here for Portugal. You can't slip up or make a mistake here, especially you don't want to lose in the first bloods, because they have been pretty much going in favour of Saudi Arabia more recently, and that's not what you want to do, and give yourself that team disadvantage early on to have to come back from it. And there you go, it is once again Saudi Arabia finding that first blood. Bronx first taken down. You can rely on Nuts. He finds one back.
Yeah, huge now. The timing crucial. Nuts the press X coming through with a couple. Saudi Arabia in trouble once again. Time running down, running out of lives. And it is S8 just desperately trying to hold on here. Run down the clock. Is going to pick up one. Going to try and pick up the second. but getting taken out.
Marker on the second as well. That is so unfortunate though, but he would have been taken out 1v3 there anyway, so no matter what. Unfortunate, but yes, Saudi Arabia are still slowly letting Portugal trickle their way back in.
Yeah, well, if Portugal continue to grow in confidence here, Saudi Arabia could find themselves in a bit of trouble. But look, 6-4. You're Saudi, and you just lock in from this point. The win surely should still be in sight. But Portugal, our side, we've seen them. They're not going to let this one slip. They're going to continue to push as long as they can to see if they can rescue this one from the jaws of defeat. As it is once again Saudi Arabia playing towards this A, but playing a little bit more passively as the live's not in their favor. What a snipe!
What did he even see the second time? I didn't even see anything on the screen. It was that quick, but Nuke and SAR will answer back with snipes of their own. Depressix finds Nuke though to trade him back out, so instantly Portugal in a 3 versus 2 scenario. S8 makes it an even Stevens battle for only for a matter of seconds. Now Khaled, what can he do from here? A 1v2 scenario to try and win them the round and win them the map. Khaled misses his shotgun shot, and that's exactly what you don't want to do. You don't want to miss it at that opportunity. It is 6-5. Guess what? It is still a chance for Saudi Arabia. The last map point up for grabs here. But Portugal have been bringing themselves back into this very nicely.
Yeah, starting to get a little scary. If you're a Saudi Arabia fan, hold on to your breath here, but not for too long in case we end up finding ourselves in an overtime. Again, the first blood just going to be crucial. A 2-3 split from Portugal, as they once again have Saudi Arabia fairly boxed in towards this A, but it's a case of when they'll get the picks. And Nuts gets the first blood, but can Val pick up 2? He doesn't. The kills being traded left, right, and center. 3 versus 3. Make that 3 versus 2 now. Saudi Arabia in trouble in this round, and they're very split apart from each other.
Yeah, they're spread. They're having to think about regarding that bomb once again as well, and it's going to be Depressix that's sitting watching over it. You're going to have Bronx with that scope, and you're going to have Frosty also sitting waiting. He spotted the player with the scope. Frosty will get the call out. He gets the kill onto Tricky, but instantly traded back as Khaled finds Bronx. Now 2 versus 1, favourable towards Portugal. Don't have to do anything here too much because the bomb is sitting right in the alleyway, and guess what? Khaled's got all the hard work to do. He's got a scope, he's got a shotgun, but he's shut down from Depressix. We have a tied match on our hands. Wow, what a comeback from Portugal that's been.
Yeah, what was it, like 6-2, 6-3? Was it?
Yeah, 6-2.
My word. Yeah, I mean,
6-2.
Look, it just shows the level of Portugal. Again, they're a team that that we knew were a very strong search and destroy team. And when a team is strong in search and destroy, even when you're winning by a lot, you can never count them out. And unfortunately, Saudi Arabia just seemed to underestimate their opposition ever so slightly. And Portugal have taken full advantage. But Portugal dropping 2 lives already at this position. So first round of this overtime, Portugal in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, 3 lives down now as well. It's Depressix and Bronx. Well, that's none of them because that's a clean sweep from Saudi Arabia. The first defensive round in overtime, and they take it in fine fashion. Portugal will want to do and replicate the exact same thing here to keep it going. It's a very difficult task here. It's a game of tennis. If you break serve, there's a chance this game is yours. So who's going to do it first is the question.
Well, Portugal, I'm sure, would feel very hard done by if they were to make all this effort to come back just to drop 2 of the overtime rounds straight away. We've seen Psycho play the camp here in the bushes, but he is spotted straight away. No stealth plays coming through there. Is already with a man advantage. Saudi Arabia are going to try and get this bomb down. Only 2 now left alive for Portugal, in deep trouble. This could be it.
Yeah, this could be it. He's got a scope as well and the machine pistol that he's got to rely on for backup. 1 versus 3. He's going to need some fine shooting. It's going to have to be shooting at the hunting range. Finds one. No, that's perfect. Picks up the VMP. Good idea, but goes out in the open. SHR will find it. Saudi Arabia will win the match. But we're going to check everything in the background to make sure that we're okay to go forward, because we're going to, you know what it's been like throughout the weeks, right? We just never know. There's always somebody holding something that they shouldn't be holding, and before we know it, we're getting a forfeit of that map or what. So we'll double check, make sure that is the case, and we'll come back to you in just a few seconds to make sure we're going either to game 3 or are we going to win?
Oh, we're hearing it in the ear, folks. Who is that speaking to? Is it the voices in my head, or is it our producer? I believe it's our producer. Mark, do you want to give him the news?
Yeah, well, guess what? We've been holding a UAV if you're Saudi Arabia, which means you disqualify yourself in that map. Even if you take the win, unfortunately, we will, well, fortunately for us as casters, we get to go to that raid control. And it's still Portugal's opportunity to win the series and put out Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is going to have to come back strong and firing and not make any mistakes here now. Make sure you're checking your loadouts. You're not bringing stuff you should not be bringing in to the fight, because this is all or nothing now. It is one map to seal your playoff opportunity if you're Saudi Arabia. But from that, what can we say? Like, it was a fantastic individual play, obviously, from Depressix and such like as well. He had 17 kills in the lobby, the most out of anybody in the lobby, even on that losing side. He was definitely one to watch throughout the search and destroy. Obviously, a few times where he was left in 1v3s as well, which made it very difficult because his teammates had all fallen around him. Do you take a positive from that if you're Portugal? Because you did bring it back such a big margin, and then now you're going into another map at least, where you feel like maybe you've got yourself more into the series.
You can, but I wonder if we're seeing maybe what has been the downfall of Portugal throughout the entirety of this season, right? A team who can definitely give sides a game, but when it comes to that crunch time, when it comes to getting yourself over the line at the final hurdle, they just don't seem to be able to do that. I mean, we harken back to that first hard point, having a terrific game, but just letting it fall away in the end of Saudi Arabia at the death, just managed to hold just about enough control, actually being able to hold the final point from the front. And then say search and destroy, being out of it, but showing that they have fight, showing that they have skill and tenacity to pull it back, only for then when the actual in the moment in-game pressure starts to be mounted on their shoulders, they lose it, and they lose it in quite, I think, poor fashion, constantly leaving Depressix as the last alive, fairly consistently, not being able to kind of stick together. And at least, look, if you know that you're on the receiving end and Depressix is always managing to stay alive, play beside Depressix and try and at least play off trades, play your lives, play the bait and switch. But in the end up, when it went to overtime, it once again started to become relatively easy for Saudi Arabia, which is not how it should be for Portugal. So they've been granted a little bit of a lifeline there from their perspective, a little bit of a, lifeline's actually the perfect way to say it. They get a chance to go over to map 3. They get a chance to play over some raid control. And Saudi Arabia, the pressure is going to be really on them right now. They should have booked their place in the playoffs, and yet, through a silly mistake, are going to have to try and clutch it up in the final map.
Yeah, well, if it's anything like the map number 1, where even if the kills disparity say was massive in comparison, the game and the objective was very close. And we know how close control can be. Depending on where you get your setup, we can be stuck in that spawn trap raid. Not as much of a spawn trap as we have seen on the, what's the one that's the last one that we did it was the airplane one.
Oh,
Takeoff. There we go.
Takeoff. Yes.
That one. That is like, you can get into so many spawn traps on that one, both sides, right? And if you're pushed up well on control, that could be absolutely devastating. Raid, a little bit harder to do. It's still possible though to get in that spawn trap in a control. And once you see that happen, especially when operators start getting into the fray, and you've got your war machine, you've got your equalizers, you just set up in that spawn trap, it is almost nigh impossible to get out of it. It is very difficult, and yeah, you don't want to be on that end. Hopefully, if you are either side, attack or defense, you can do it either way. It's just pushing up the map and getting full control of that map scenario as well. So Portugal, they'll need to get their up their killing game, because that's where they're going to have to try and get some map superiority.
Yeah, Portugal, if they find themselves getting outslayed, they will be in deep trouble. The slaying ability of Saudi Arabia map number 1 was very, very apparent. And Portugal, as you say, it's the curse of control, so to speak. You kind of have nowhere to run because of that spawn situation. If you find yourself being outslayed, especially on a map like Raid, where, yes, it's a terrific map, but the lanes are quite, I suppose, predictable in terms of knowing exactly where and when to look. So if you find yourself getting pushed into the back half, you are always going to be dealing against someone who's going to have their gun up first on you, and it's going to be about your ability to be able to slay out, make sure you get that pick, win the gunfight that shouldn't have gone your way, and be able to push forward out of there. But on the other hand, they don't want to even find themselves in that position. They want to keep it mixy around the mid-map. They want to sort of be angling left and right, trying to make sure they stretch the Saudi Arabian side, because I think when Saudi Arabia get confident, they start pushing together a number, slaying out, they're a really dangerous force to be contended with. And I don't think Portugal, given how they've played, even though they had a competitive respawn the last time around, I don't think with such a direct engagement, they have it in the locker to outdo Saudi Arabia. So they got to play the stretches. They got to rely on a bit of tactical prowess once again to try and isolate these players one-on-one, whilst also trying to, of course, get control or defend these sites.
Yeah, well, we'll see if their tactical prowess can pull them through for Portugal. They'll need everything, all guns blazing. They need everything to work in their favour, definitely. Maybe Saudi Arabia to have an off map, potentially, as well, for some, at least one or two of the players who were absolutely lasering throughout in that hard point. I think we should be starting off very, very soon as well. I hope, fingers crossed. We're just waiting on a few other players getting themselves into that lobby and get that button to go play. We are in, but raid control, ladies and gentlemen, for Nations Cup 2025 here in Group A, Week 3. We're about to get into the action. We're about to decide whether Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia,
Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia,
make it through. Oh, now I've just seen your posted in the fraud chat, and now I'm stuck.
I'm very sorry about that. I just needed to let you know that it was a very important thing. What did I say, folks? You at home, you'll never know. Saudi Arabia versus Portugal, map number 3, trying to get themselves set up early on. The push quickly onto B here from the side of Portugal. Can they make it count? How many ticks can they get off the rip? Already getting 1. Great start, trying to make it 2, but already Saudi Arabia on the flank trying to pick them apart, and they have them pretty split, but Portugal have the chance to hold the side. But in saying that, the player actually taken off the point.
Yeah, almost at the second tick of progression, but that's going to be whittled down here as player number 3 of Nuke is sitting on that control zone. Snipe through as well. S8 finds 2. That's Frosty and Nuts falling to his sniper scope. Potentially looking for a third inside that window, but it is very well stopped there for Saudi Arabia to stop that bleeding off being taken. However, they are switching around, trying to take that A site. 2 players pushed up very strongly here for Saudi Arabia, but one needs to jump on that zone.
Yeah, it's getting to that point. It's make or break. You need to get pushed up, and Saudi Arabia not doing too well on the lives either, and 2 ticks gone, 1 on either side, and it's racking up on A. It has to be said, Portugal are finding sort of a lot of success in getting very advanced in the map, and now potentially a rotation coming through over towards B as well. Again, playing the stretch as they should be, but why even? They have so much control over it. I just recognized they had to completely pushed off. They're going to get that 3rd tick down. 9-18, objective A lost. And Saudi Arabia, they're in deep trouble here.
Yeah, very much deep trouble. They're deep back in their spawn as well. They need to start thinking about that B side. At least they know where to go for that defense. But that's a double kill. That's 3 in a row. They're down to 5 players remaining if you're Saudi Arabia. But if you're Portugal, do you want to go for the ticks? Because that could be important. Or do you just find, like, we win around no matter what, let's just go and get the kills and do whatever, because 1 tick of progression over towards B, that will make a total of 4 so far, but they'll be wanting more.
Yeah, huge moment here for Saudi Arabia, for Portugal. Portugal going to try and get as many ticks as they can. It looks like they are going to play the stack, surely going to get at least a 2nd tick here, if not a 3rd. Last left alive. Are they going to try and take him out? They're probably going to have no choice. The push coming through. They'll have to get the player. So they will end the offensive round with a victory and 5 ticks under their belt. Portugal, you couldn't have asked for a better start.
Oh yeah, definitely couldn't ask for a better start. But this is where it starts to heat up now, right? Didn't see operators getting involved yet. We're getting closer and closer to that opportunity. Will that turn around in Saudi Arabia's hand, or will Portugal be able to take full control? Because they've come out, all guns firing, and they've been starting off very strongly. But that's 2 kills going the way of Saudi Arabia to kick us off as they head towards that B site. Statue is going to try and be where they take full control up, and they do get the 1st tick of progression, and they are making a 2nd, but that's 3 kills in a row. Make that 4 as well now, because Sparrow does come out. Nuts finding 2, trying to add more, but it seems to be all the Tempest shut down instantaneously as well, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, not the best use, not the best use of the Tempest, but a terrific shutdown, and Saudi Arabia managing to do a bit of damage over at B, but Portugal doing a great job of shutting them down. The flank around the back of Portugal's spawn not working out, and now Saudi Arabia are finding themselves not a bit pushed back, but finding themselves having to force their way onto B because there's nowhere else to go, but managing to get the trip stack, which means they're going to get at least another tick, maybe even get B finished here. And the split from Portugal was a little bit surprising there. They almost funneled Saudi Arabia to spawn towards that direction, and then didn't actually set up to deal with them spawning in that direction, just almost giving them a lane right through onto B. Few question marks there, but Now Portugal can just sort of turtle back up and set themselves up to make sure that this A doesn't get captured, because Saudi Arabia haven't gotten anywhere near this A point yet.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to have a few exclamation marks here and go big, but it's just Khaled that's found two with that Sparrow. The equalizer's coming out here for Tricky as well. Back in the spawn, he's going to run and try and run down the Portuguese players. And there you go, there's two. He knows where more are. There's the third, potentially way to be lined up. And the fourth, oh my god, he just misses out on nuts. That would have been crazy, but they're 12-9 in advantage now. Make that 12 versus a ticket progression could potentially start to be made as well, because he's fighting inside that tiki bar, but who's going to win that gunfight? Frosty.
We're failing this
He's going to go around the pillar. It's like holding it no matter what. Nobody willing to challenge this. Ring a rosies. He's going to come out. There we go. It's going to be Frosty that wins that gunfight.
That's a huge wave. That's a really, really huge wave for Portugal. Oh my god. 6 versus 6. I mean, the life comeback. What was it? 12-6 at one point? I mean, Portugal have done a great job of turtling up, managing to get their lives back. Saudi Arabia now moving through the mid. They have 50 seconds left, but they have a lot of progress to make on this A. They need to kind of play the life situation and picking up one there, making it a 6-4. Again, every life now at this point is crucial as Portugal trying to sit deep, play this one defensively, but one coming through now, 5 versus 4. But if they can play the trades, it'll work out well for them. Massive wave, 5 versus 2. Make that 5v1. They should have enough from here.
Stop them getting the ticks. Get the death. There we go, Bronx. You should not be lying down in that scenario. You want to keep control of the tick advantage, right? And they've done so. But it wasn't looking like he was going to do it. He was looking he would stay there as long as he possibly could. But he was found out, and that was only, what, 4 ticks of progression made there for Saudi Arabia. So technically, it's upper hand Portugal going into this round. What are they going to do now? They're attacking round this time. Khaled, early nade, will find the press 6, keeps it nice and interesting to start us off, and he goes through mid-map, finds a second, and Nuke finds a third. That's 4 dead in the feed.
Oh, wow. Perfect from Saudi Arabia. They're now getting pushed up into the spawn. Portugal have no choice but to rush this A, but Saudi Arabia have that cutoff already. Watch, just ready and waiting, and they are going to get the picks. They're playing the bait and switches, and they just pick them apart, and Saudi Arabia are in so much control. 27-17. This is a decimation.
A 10 life advantage this early on. No ticks of progression made for Portugal. A very different round than we've seen in round 1. Now, they need a big, massive comeback. They need to start finding the kills and not losing as it stands. But unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case. As you go, even if it goes trade for trade, you're out of this round, Portugal. And that's with no ticks of progression made as well. You're going to need to go massive. Nuts finds 1, but it's still 23 versus 11 in this round. And unfortunately, I don't want to see a comeback from Portugal anytime soon.
Yeah, this is probably the round that has undone Portugal and sent Saudi Arabia through, because we are seeing a Portugal side being completely shut down. Not even a whiff of a tick coming through. They've barely gotten out of spawn. They have Tricky, or is it Tricky, I believe? I can't actually fully see who that number is at. No, it is Brock's outside of the spawn, trying to actually push up into their spawn, but not really in a position to do much, and instantly gets taken out. 19 versus 4. Last push on to B to try and at least get 1 tick, but my word, it feels like it's all in vain from here.
Yeah, all in vain. 1 tick of progression is made. 3 on the zone still. 7 seconds it's paused for. There's still a chance to get a second tick if they can hold on here. Twist Tricky, funny enough, is not going in for that challenge. 15 versus 1. Now, you're not going to get the second tick of progression on to B. The time will be run down, and it will be around once again for Saudi Arabia. 6 ticks of progression versus 4, but it will matter nonetheless if Saudi Arabia win the round. So if you're Portugal, you need to hold them to a 0 as well. Give yourself that advantage going to round 5.
Which, look, I mean, they're a team that could maybe hold them off pretty well, but holding them to a 0, we've seen the way Saudi can outslay. It just does not feel like it's possible at this point, especially with Saudi pushing up the mid, but not checking the corners there. And the kills traded back in 4th, but actually looks like Saudi are kind of angling towards this A first, and they have a lot of control of the site already. Kind of getting ready to pick 1 tick up. They've got it. Looking like they're going to maybe get a second. And already Portugal are finding themselves pretty pushed back and pretty funneled into the lanes that Saudi are happy to deal with them in.
Saudi already looking to get the second tick of progression made over there towards B, and A also trying to make it second tick overall. So this could be well and truly the round done for Saudi Arabia. Either way, they're going to take the advantage in tick count. If Portugal somehow come out on top in the round, it will be Saudi Arabia's defensive round. but nonetheless, B is fully captured. We only have 2 ticks left remaining at A. You have advantage once again in life, so it's 21 versus 13. Val with the Tempest finds one. Second manages to duck down, but doesn't avoid the Odin. Doesn't find another as well, because it's going to be Nuke that finally picks that kill off or not. But it is definitely going to be Saudi Arabia winning, or double the kills advantage.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia, they locked in when they needed to. Things were looking pretty damn dangerous going into this map number 3. Should have had it over on map 2, but the forfeit coming through meant that they had to take it all the way. And round 1 looking shaky, but Saudi Arabia locked it down and locked in, and now 14 lives to 3. It looks like it's all about over. The ticks not even coming through at A because they're not even worried about them. They're just going to chase down the last who's alive. The win imminent for Saudi Arabia, and truly well deserved.
Yep, and there we go. Nuke will finish off the job. Bronx, the last player to go down. A 3-1 win for Saudi Arabia. If it wasn't for the DQ, it was their round anyway, but they took it to have to do it in control, and they done it in fine fashion as well. 3-1 strong once again in that kills department. It feels like they just started racking it up when they needed the pressure to be added. And Portugal, they started off round 1 fantastic. And I felt like, you know what, they might actually have an opportunity here. But as soon as that happened, it was an opportunity in favour of Saudi Arabia. They started building it and stopped them to a 0. Well, pretty much 1, sorry, take a progression on that defensive round. And that just changed the flow of the map. We're not going to see every single player of Portugal overall in the standings, but you can see it once again. Val hitting 29 kills with 14 deaths. A good, almost, well, more than double positive. A fantastic effort going forward. And yeah, I mean, you can put it past them from the start of the evening. It felt like it was the Saudi Arabia's game to lose, and it was very much so. It was very much a Saudi Arabia solid performance. Zep, any more discuss in terms of what you thought about the Saudi Arabia roster and how they kind of dealt with the pressure going into that control?
I think they dealt with it quite well, right? I mean, the first round a little bit shaky, but maybe just caught a little bit off guard, a little bit off balance. Once they had the time to understand their opposition and lock in, they absolutely did. And let's not forget Nuke either. I mean, he had a fantastic performance on that map as well. It was definitely a team performance throughout, which made it work. And look, I definitely think for Saudi, there is question marks for them as a side. They have weaknesses of which Portugal were able to expose from time to time. The rotational plays weren't always the best. But in saying that, I now wonder how much were we seeing of the Saudi side really trying as hard as they could, because when they started to lock it down on Search and Destroy, they did look like a different animal. When they started to lock it down under control, I saw a side who was rotating back and forth quite well, left to right. Overall, just really, really solid performance for them. Massive, massive credit to them, but definitely have a couple of more questions that need to be answered going into the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. Going into the playoffs is going to be an interesting one to see how Saudi Arabia will progress. But that is now Group A finalised. We have Germany through. Following them will be Saudi Arabia in that playoffs. We still got more teams to decide. There will be no action tomorrow because Philippines did end up forfeiting. Therefore, we did get the 2 players, the 2 teams to go through from the Tuesday, so no games for Tuesday, but we will be back here for Thursday action and Friday for both Group C and Group D to see who the final members will be making it through into that playoff stage. And then it is playoff brackets and winners and losers opportunities to see who goes and crowns the Nations Cups of 2025. Zep, any last words?
Last words are just really looking forward to seeing the rest of the action throughout the week and going into the playoffs. We have some terrific teams. We've seen the level really been set. Some teams really top tier. Some teams have a lot left still to work on, but reaching that stage in the season where we start to see the top teams reaping the rewards for their efforts, but having to go up against each other, it'll make for some absolutely cracking series.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be some cracking series for sure. I am looking forward to it very much so, and looking forward to seeing the action for the remainder of the week. But until then, until we get back on your screens, we'll be joined by, I'm sure it's Infinity and Diana as well on Thursday potentially. But whoever it is, they're going to be a fantastic action to watch because some great games to be had. We'll see you then on Thursday evening, same time, same place here over on Atlas GG, and we really do appreciate every single opportunity you guys give us on the screen. So we'll see you again soon. Big up to the production in the background as well. Fantastic job. We'll catch you soon.